Hey, what up? Welcome back to another video on one of the YouTube channels ever, and today we're kinda going back to the roots of this channel and talking about corpos being completely delusional. And getting straight into it, you could probably already tell from the thumbnail or the title, but recently Sony decided to announce their brand new PS5 Pro, and off the jump, that part of course isn't really surprising to anyone. Literally everyone knew there was gonna be a PS5 Pro. That's just the natural progression of consoles at this point. They release whatever their new generation of consoles are, and then a few years later, they release a slightly upgraded edition that isn't quite the next generation, but it's at least an upgrade of what you already have. And that's essentially what they're marketing the PS5 Pro as well, but the thing about the PS5 Pro is they're not charging you an upgrade price. They're charging you the price for a whole new generation of consoles and then some. The new PlayStation 5 Pro costs $700, and that's being generous to Sony as well. There's a bunch of ways that you're gonna most likely end up paying more if you actually wanted this console, and one of those things, of course, being tax. And after tax, you're probably gonna be looking at somewhere around $780, so if you want this new upgrade, you better be ready to fork over around $800. And if there are any avid PlayStation defenders in here, you might already be like, oh sushi, PC players pay that type of money all the time to upgrade. It's worth it for how much performance you get. And I'm just gonna go ahead and stop you right there because maybe you haven't seen how much of an upgrade you're paying for here, so we're gonna go ahead and take a look at it together.
We want to give players the graphics that the game creators aspire to, at the high frame rates that players typically prefer. To do that, PS5 Pro substantially improves over PlayStation 5 in 3 ways. Here's what we call the Big Three.
Now, I don't want to cut this guy off too early, and I really want to let him explain here, but off the jump, from what I'm seeing on the screen, this genuinely looks like just a GPU upgrade. But I don't want to jump the gun too quick. Maybe we're looking at an upgrade the equivalent to something like a 1060 jumping to like a 4080 Super or something.
Here's The Last of Us Part 2 running on PS5 Pro. It has huge amounts of detail and targets a super smooth 60 frames per second. Let's compare this to the fidelity mode on PS5, which is only running at 30 frames per second and is therefore much choppier.
Alright now, at least for me, there's already a lot to unpack here. Starting at, isn't that game a remake? But second of all, I didn't know the PS5 ran any game at 30 FPS. I thought they ran everything at like 120. I thought that was like one of their big selling points of this being the next generation. Everything you have is gonna run at 120 or at least a bare minimum of 60. I didn't even know they still had games on console that ran at 30. The base PS5 is like $500. You're getting 30 FPS for $500? What? But that being besides the point, I'm not gonna strictly hate here because this clearly is a upgrade. If you have a game running at only 30 FPS and then the new upgraded console can run it at 60 while also having it look better, that's obviously a pretty nice upgrade, but it's gonna have to be something much larger than that to warrant a $700 price tag.
Another way to compare the two consoles is to look at PS5 Pro versus Performance mode on PS5, both of which target 60 frames per second. What we see here is a difference in detail. PS5 Pro is much sharper and crisper than PS5.
Alright, I have no other choice but to go straight back to hating. What is he talking about, man? I mean, sure, I might not have my glasses on, but I don't think I need them that much. What difference is he talking about? Sure, maybe the glass in the window looks a bit more detailed and textured, and the little bricks on the wall at the bottom of the screen has a bit more detail in them, but this isn't really what I would even consider an upgrade really at all. If you play most of your games on PC and you usually like deal with your settings before you start playing the game, you'd notice that this kind of reminds you of some of those settings in the games where you'll be adjusting them to the max and the minimum and it'll show you the little difference on the side of your screen and you'll be wondering, is there even a difference here? Do I want to have this on high or low? Because it doesn't look different either way, so I may as well turn it to low to save some performance. Now I also also do know that we're of course not going to see the full performance upgrade when the video is uploaded to YouTube. You're of course going to lose some of the quality and not be able to tell the actual complete difference, but it does still give you a pretty decent idea of how big the difference is.
For this, my favorite is the parade scene from Ratchet and Clank. Distant details are much clearer.
Alright, now, I feel like at this point, they're genuinely just playing a joke to see how stupid I really am. And I may be an idiot, but there's certainly one thing that I'm not, and that's an idiot. You cannot sit here and tell me that one of these consoles is a $700 upgrade, and I'm not gonna act like there's absolutely no difference here whatsoever, and the only reason that I can really tell that there is a difference is because they zoomed in 10,000 times the pixel peak, but even with that, the PS5 Pro genuinely just looks like if you were customizing your game settings on PC and you just cranked the sharpness up a bit. It doesn't even necessarily look clearer, it just looks sharper. But like I said, this is really only a difference that you'll notice if you're doing exactly what they're doing right here, and that's pausing the game and getting close to the screen as possible to see something all the way in the distance that's really just meant to be in the background anyway, so does it really matter if it's the sharpest thing ever?
And here we can see Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is noticeably higher resolution throughout the scene, including the trees and procedural cars.
Alright now, I think we've seen enough of this because they're not about to keep playing me like an idiot. It's also the wording that he's using here. There's a noticeable difference. This one, I genuinely just can't even tell the difference. It also doesn't help that the photos aren't exact side-by-side comparisons. Both the scenes are slightly different, which really just makes them look the same, and if anything, the normal PS5 almost looks better because it's a bit more colorful. I almost can't even believe it. After showing us that absolute rancid comparison, because let's really just call it what it is for its price, after that rancid comparison, and then dropping the $700 price tag on us, you have the nerve to say play has no limits. Yeah, I think you forgot that money is actually a pretty big limiter, and on top of all of that, arguably the worst part is at the bottom in little text, vertical stands sold separately. You're charging people $700 for this piece of garbage that can't even stand up on its own, and then you're charging extra for the little plastic piece that helps it stand up. What are we supposed to do then? Just lay it on its side so it can overheat and explode? Because it's not like anyone can afford a table to set it on after spending $700 on it. This also isn't even to mention the fact that the damn thing doesn't even come with the fucking disc tray. If you're charging that much for it, it should at least also have the disc reader, and I know, sure, most people have moved on to digital games or whatever, but when you're paying that much money, you want the versatility and the option to also be able to insert discs. But like I said earlier, this isn't just pure hatred or anything. If you have infinite money and you're just looking for whatever the next upgrade is, sure, go right ahead and buy it, but for literally anyone else that isn't absolutely just drowning in money, I can't see this being a reasonable option to upgrade to and really not even buy, because an argument that I've seen going around is, well, you know, even though it's expensive, if you're someone who doesn't own the regular PS5 and you want a PlayStation, just buy this one instead. It's still not even a good choice. The base PS5 is more bang for your buck. $700 is getting towards the territory of PC. At that point, you'd just genuinely be better off saving up your money a bit more and getting a mid-tier PC. And I just noticed throughout this entire video, I've still been being generous to Sony and calling this thing $700 when if you're your average person that of course has to pay tax on it and you most likely want the vertical stand with it, you're gonna be paying around $800 to $850 for this, which is just completely unacceptable. One of the biggest points that I really wanted to bring up is it seems like they're forgetting who consoles are supposed to cater to. And I don't know know if it's the huge success and super inflated prices of the PS5 that got to their head or what, but the average person looking to buy a console can't really pay $700 to $800 for one. That's out of console territory. Consoles were meant to be the cheaper and simpler option that someone who's just a casual gamer or someone who's young can just spend around $400 to $500 and get a super easy to use console that you can plug up to your living room TV and have decent fun on and run really whatever game you want to without having to worry about it. And making it this expensive really just kicks out the people that console was really meant to cater towards. Casual gamers that are looking to spend maybe 1 to 2 hours on a game a day, and kids that really can't afford anything that expensive are not going to be buying this console because it either just doesn't seem like a smart purchase or they just straight up can't afford it. And at this point, the more I think about it, it really seems like Sony is starting to go down the Apple route and charge insane premiums really just for their name. Oh my goodness, the PS5 was so popular that scalpers were actually getting away with selling it for like $1,000. That means people love us. Let's charge them $700 base for some garbage that doesn't even come with half the stuff you need. But before this video turns into an infinite rant on how bad of a product this is for how much they're charging and how stupid of a decision it would be to buy it at this price, that pretty much wraps it up. So if you made it this far in the video, you probably liked something, so you may as well drop a like and maybe even subscribe. We're trying to get to 1,000 before the year is over, so every sub counts. But I'm not gonna hold y'all for too long, so I'll catch you guys in the next one.